Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 13th of February, 2023. We are live tonight on the Wilmsfront YouTube, DLive, and Odyssey channel, as also on the Interactive Entropy software, where you can send myself a direct question or also send through a super chat to support not just the production of this program, but all Unshackled Productions. Hello to all my regulars in the chat. Brucey, Savto, Peak Ozyman, great to see all the regulars. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where so far no UFOs, unidentified flying objects, have been shot down in our airspace. I'm sure that every world leader will get their turn to shoot one down. I'm sure that's something that's on PM Anal's wish list, given that Justin Trudeau got to brag about shooting one down. Maybe because Cyclone Gabrielle is preventing UFOs flying around Australia and around the Pacific and Tasman Sea. Cyclone Gabrielle that travelled from Norfolk Island, which is one of Australia's external territories, and now it's currently on the New Zealand North Island. Of course, Auckland recently had the La Nina flooding, and now it's got this cyclone. You wonder what Auckland has done wrong for the past, I don't know, maybe 6 years for them to have two natural disasters in as many months. So let's see where we are with the UFO tally board or map, because we've had three shot down over North America in the past 3 days, and this is a week after the Biden administration was humiliated after it let a Chinese spy weather balloon fly from Alaska down to Montana, and it was shot down over the Atlantic Sea at South Carolina. They said it was too dangerous to shoot it down while it was traveling over the US, even though Montana is a sparsely populated state. But over the weekend, there have been three UFOs that have been shot down by NORAD, which stands for the North American Aerospace Defense Command, which is headed by its Commander General Glen VanHerck, who is also the commander of a similar body called NORCOM. So first, there was Saturday morning, the news broke, which is Friday evening Australian time, over Yukon Territory. Going back here, there was the one shot down on Saturday Australian time, Friday night US time. So that was the one shot over Cumtown, Alaska. And then there was on Sunday morning Australian time, and that was Saturday evening US time. That was the one that was shot down over Yukon Territory in Canada. So that is the one that Justin Trudeau posted about on Twitter. This is apparently some footage of it.
Really can't make this shit up right now, guys. Look at that. They're doing something. Look at that. I'm busy.
And then there was it was called a radar anomaly. For the airspace was closed by the FFA over Montana, and even though the airspace was shut and the U.S. Department of Defense was having an operation there, they apparently couldn't shoot it down, and this is what Republican Congressman for Montana, Matt Rosendale, told Fox News.
Congressman, I guess my first question, have you guys been briefed on this matter?
I have finally, Lawrence. I will tell you that when the first balloon came across and everyone heard about it, we were clawing for information, and DOD, Pentagon was not forthcoming. Fortunately, this evening, I am back in Montana. I'm at an event, a Lincoln Reagan dinner in Columbus, Montana right now, and DOD called me as I've been sitting here and started giving me briefings to tell me what was going on. I clarified with them that this is actually the fourth balloon. Okay, so the first was shot down over the Atlantic. One was shot down before it entered into Alaska's airspace. The third was shot down, Trudeau ordered, over Canada. So now we're talking about a fourth incident, and we had air traffic shut down on the northern part of the state. My report is that it has been reopened. DOD told me that they are going to be tracking the object. They can't even say exactly what it is. They're going to track the object until it gets light again. They don't have the ability to put any more eyes on it with aircraft until it's light again.
Congressman, where is the object? Where is the object? Do they know where the object? I know you say they're tracking it,
yeah,
but where is it right now?
It's north of Havre, Montana.
So it's still in American airspace right now. So do we anticipate that airspace being closed as well? More airspace in the country in Montana being closed?
That I do not have any additional information on, Lawrence. I can tell you the airspace has been opened back up again. They closed it originally because the object was hovering there in that prime commercial air traffic zone between 18,000 and 35,000 feet.
And Congressman, I'm assuming because you represent this area, do they plan on shooting the object down?
I will know more as it gets light again, Lawrence. Right now, they cannot bring it down in the dark. And once it gets light again, they're still monitoring exactly where it's going. They will give me more information in the morning, or if anything changes through the evening.
So, Congressman, I know you're there with Patriots at the Lincoln Day dinner. I'm sure they have.
So apparently, NORAD, the U.S. Department of Defense, they couldn't shoot it down because it was at nighttime. So their air defense system was thwarted because it was dark. Now, there are some reports, speculation that object, and this is what these UFOs are being called, objects or unidentified objects. They don't want to say unidentified flying objects. They reckon this is the one that they didn't shoot down or catch from Montana because it had already gone, was the one that was shot down over Lake Huron, which is between the U.S. state of Michigan, next to Lake Michigan, and the Canadian province of Ontario. And so we have this peculiar situation where they're very certain that it's not a weather balloon, spy balloon. This is what the Canadian Minister of Defense said, Anita Anand, when she was asked about the shoot down of the object in Yukon province.
And so just to confirm, so it sounds like it potentially was another balloon. Is that what we're being led to? And so just to confirm, so it sounds like it potentially was another balloon. Is that what we're being led to believe here?
I will refer to the item as an object at this time. I am a person that depends on facts and will not provide opinions until I can ground them in some sort of fact. So I'm going to wait for the reports that I will be getting relating to the analysis of the debris. We have a CP-140 in the air, ensuring that we are locating the debris.
Now, as far as we know, none of these UFOs have been retrieved. We know nothing about them. We're told that they are unmanned. And overnight, broke late last night Australian time, there was a UFO in the waters of the Chinese coastal city of Rizhao in the northern Shandong province. And the Chinese said they were thinking of shooting it down, but the information that we got is apparently just crash landed. So we haven't heard anything from them about if that's been retrieved. And so we haven't heard much from Joe Biden. Remember, he was missing in action during the Chinese spy weather balloon saga that he let go on. So he was at a US governor's dinner. And so the Biden team has issued private assurances. It is not aliens. So we had here the commander of NORAD said that they wouldn't rule out aliens. So the New York Times has said the incursions seem to become so common that Biden administration officials have found themselves issuing private assurances that there is no evidence that they involve extraterrestrial activity, but officials also acknowledge privately that the longer they are unable to provide a public explanation for the provenance of the objects, the more speculation grows. And you even have CNN now having these sorts of discussions about some of the fighter pilots' encounter with these UFOs.
Interesting. This is kind of unusual that these pilots saw different things, and that is sort of, I guess, adding to the mystery of all this.
Yeah, not even the pilots apparently were really able to identify what they saw. And just to take you back for a sec, on Thursday, the U.S. defense officials sent F-35 fighter jets up to try to figure out what this object was that was flying around near Alaska. Those pilots, we have learned, have given very conflicting accounts of what they actually experienced, with some pilots saying that the object interfered with the plane's sensors, other pilots saying that they didn't really experience that, other pilots saying that when they looked at the object, they could identify no identifiable propulsion system, and they did not know how it was actually staying in the air, cruising at that altitude of about 40,000 feet. So this has all added to the Pentagon's wariness of describing in more detail what this object actually is until they can get more information through the debris that they are recovering right now.
So 2023 is already proving UFO season. I mean, last week I'd already put up my bird flu decorations, but what are these UFOs? We know that the US government now it has admitted the existence of UFOs. The Pentagon had for 5 years the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program led by Louis Elizondo, who has now resigned from the Pentagon. Obviously, for 70 years prior to it all blew up in a New York Times investigative piece in December 2017. For 70 years, anyone who believed that UFOs were real or that aliens were real was dismissed as a crackpot conspiracy theorist. But as we know, most conspiracy theories are true. But all of a sudden now that, well, the government is openly saying we don't know what these objects are, they can't bring themselves to call them UFOs. They did come up with another term, which was unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, because UFO had too much stigma with it. So what are they? Are these the aliens finally ready to make first contact? Is this the moment when, I mean, in the past, the reason why with Project Blue Book, not Project Blue Beam, that's the fictional alien book or conspiracy theory. So Project Blue Book in the 50s and 60s, they shot down any evidence of, they said that there was no proof of extraterrestrial UFOs. They could always easily be explained. But now, and this is why people are very perplexed, is that are they now bringing on an alien invasion psyop? And I believe that Dr. Anthony Fauci, he's recommended the wearing of tinfoil masks to protect yourselves from any alien liquid that may fall from the sky there. Actually, you might recommend maybe 1 or 2 or 3. I could only make myself a tinfoil mask. I'm not that good a sculptor that I could make myself a tinfoil hat. And now there was a Keynesian economist, Paul Krugman, many years ago, who said on CNN that governments could fake an alien invasion to stimulate economic activity.
Maybe Boston's big dig was just fine after all.
Think about World War II, right? That was actually negative social product spending, and yet it brought us out. I mean, partly because you want to put these things together. If we say, look, we could use some inflation, Ken and I are both saying that, which is, of course, anathema to a lot of people in Washington, but is in fact what the basic logic says. It's very hard to get inflation in a depressed economy, but if you had a program of government spending plus an expansionary policy by the Fed, you could get that. So if you think about using all of these things together, you could accomplish, a great deal. I mean, if we discovered that space aliens were planning to attack, and we needed a massive buildup to counter the space alien threat, and really inflation and budget deficits took secondary place to that, this slump would be over in 18 months. And then if we discovered, whoops, we made a mistake, there aren't actually any space aliens.
So we need Orson Welles, is what you're saying.
No, there was a Twilight Zone episode like this in which scientists fake an alien threat in order to achieve world peace. Well, this time we don't need it. We need it in order to get some fiscal stimulus.
So there you go. The alien invasion psyop. It's all about avoiding a recession and curbing inflation in 2023, which I guess is plausible. That's why I titled this episode Unidentified Flying Speculation, because we don't know what is going on here as of yet. One of the speculation that I had was that maybe there was an alien spacecraft and it was shot down by the US government. I remember when I interviewed the alien lady, Mary Rodwell, last year, I said, well, why haven't these aliens presented themselves for first contact? And she said, because they'd be shot at in an instant. And I guess that's what's happened. If they are alien spacecraft, maybe the subsequent ones, they've been like rescue search missions and they've been shot down as well. Now, obviously, if they have the technology, these so-called aliens, to come to Earth, I mean, they've failed as soon as they come into the atmosphere and just been shot to smithereens. Remember the famous Tic Tac video from the US Navy back in 2004? The Tic Tac type UFO was flying at such speed there that it barely was able to stay on their radar. They didn't get a chance to shoot it down yet. They're able to maybe there's maybe I'm just hypothesizing there's UFOs from different planets. They're all different. They're not all flying saucers or occupied by little green men. Picosman says, who knows what's lying underneath the ice in Antarctica? Could be anything down there. Castle Match says Krugman is an absolute moron. Yes, he is. Lady of Shalott says there's been a few sightings in Victoria. It would be in Victoria, of course. While the most famous Australian UFO sighting, it was a mass sighting, was in the Melbourne suburb of Westall at a high school, where it was about 200 to 300 students all witnessed this flying saucer-like craft fly down low into the woodlands, which was next to the school, and then flew right away. And all the students and staff were silenced by the men in black. Footage was taken away from Channel 9. And the students were they were intimidated into silence. One of the teachers was threatened that it would be revealed he'd have a drinking problem there. It's never been explained that what it was. There's speculation it could have been an experimental craft that took off from Moorabbin Airport. But obviously, this is the talk of the online world at the moment, and certainly around the kitchen table in many households. But obviously, governments aren't really scared of, like, if they are willing to let this play out, governments aren't really scared of mass hysteria anymore. I mean, given what governments have put us through the last 3 years with the pandemic and all the crazy policies, I mean, it'd probably be refreshing for a lot of the citizens of Earth for something different, some other people to come out of the sky. So if they are already running the globe here, but obviously, as I mentioned, it's got a lot of people talking. So that's got people asking the question, what if it is a psyop, what are they distracting us from? I saw this cartoon going around: 2020, the coronavirus; 2021, the vaccine; 2022, Ukraine; 2023, UFOs. I did see one of the accounts, many Twitter accounts say UFOs are a distraction from Pfizer, the US blowing up the Nordstream pipeline, big tech companies coordinating with the FBI, Intel to censor Americans and influence elections, Epstein client list, potential reveal, deadly chemical release disaster in East Palestine. Now, obviously, with the Nordstream pipeline, there was an explosive investigative report, pardon the pun, by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh. He's about 85 years old, and so it was the bombs were planted on Nord Stream during a NATO exercise called Paltops 22. So they were planted and remotely triggered 3 months later. Because remember, Russia was blamed for it, even though we have Joe Biden saying if Russia invades Ukraine, Nord Stream 2 will not happen. Victoria Nuland, Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, said that as well. She also said as a Senate committee recently that it was very good that Nord Stream 2 had been taken out. In response to this report, Germany is super pissed because that was one of their main pipelines for Russian gas to come to Germany there. One of their greatest allies has engaged in economic terrorism. I mean, it's economic vandalism as well. You could argue it's a crime against humanity because gas is needed into Europe for some humans' survival. So it's an absolute scandal. So obviously, the US government would quite like that buried with UFO stories as well. Then, of course, we have the new House Republicans. They have been grilling former Twitter executives over their Twitter censorship and election interference. The fact Marjorie Taylor Greene went off at your wrath saying you failed to take down child pornography, yet you deleted my tweets. And also, we've had the devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria. There has been some conspiracy chatter online. This is from the Australian National Review, that the earthquake was triggered by HAARP, which is So HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Oral Research Program. So it's a jointly funded by the US Air Force, Navy, and the University of Alaska Fairbanks, because there were these weird clouds over Turkey before the devastating earthquake, where 33,000 people have lost their lives. It is absolutely harrowing to see what is occurring there. But if you want to help the people there in that earthquake, make sure you pronounce Turkey Turkey, because the last thing you'd want to do is still call Turkey a Turkey. So that would definitely help with more lives being saved. I mean, it's such a wank that there's a natural disaster, we're going to use this as an opportunity to change the way that Turkey is spelt and pronounced. I mean, seriously. So yes, it's been absolutely harrowing what has happened there. Erdogan in Turkey, he's up for election in 2 months. He's been roundly criticized for his response. And there's still fighting going on in Syria, because remember, the civil war never ended there. Just like the civil war in Ukraine, it never really started with Russia's entry into the Donbass region. And we had Vladimir Zelensky turn up to the UK to address the British Parliament. There he is with Rishi Sunak, two globalist puppets there, embracing in a man hug there. And now the other distraction the UFOs could be is because there's been a chemical derailment in the Ohio town of East Palestine, where all of these toxic chemicals have spilt, and there's been an evacuation order put in place. There is smoke over the town. This is a video summary here. No, I haven't got it. We're being transported on a Norfolk Southern train there. So there is numerous chemicals that have the EPA, at least they've sprung into faction. So there is ethylene, glycomonobutyl, ethylene, acarite, inspine were in the rail cars that were derailed, breached, or on fire there. So
a train derailed Friday, 20 of them carrying hazardous materials as flames lit up the sky in northeastern Ohio.
The evacuation order is in place for anyone within a mile radius of the crash site.
These aren't storm clouds. This is the fucking shit! The fucking shit they burn off in East Palestine! This is not fucking storm clouds! Look at it!
I hope it is. This is horrible! Because I got arrested because I was trying to do a live report about what people need to know.
Officials are claiming that the air and water are safe. Residents say they can still smell chlorine. They've complained about their eyes watering when they go outside, and one woman says the noxious air killed her chickens.
Out of nowhere, he just started coughing really hard and just shut down and went very fast.
Look at all these fucking crows. I'm not kidding. This is within 10 miles of East Palestine.
If you have not evacuated, please leave the area.
Can't be good for the residents in East Palestine. And obviously, this could have long-term environmental and health impacts for the people that are there at the time, because you just saw the huge fire smoke there. That can't be good for anybody there. This is a massive environmental catastrophe, yet it is hardly receiving any attention there. And there was actually a movie that was released a couple of years ago about a chemical release in Ohio. So I'll try to look up what it was called. So here it is here. I've just got it now. Yeah, so East Palestine family were cast as extras in a Netflix film called Train Derailment, which was eerily similar. So this is white noise on Netflix. So they're longtime residents of a village who continue to hope the attention from Norfolk Southern doesn't stop as the news begins to fade. So yes, scary fiction becoming true as well. Now, obviously, there is, as I mentioned, one of the things they may also want to distract the public from. Remember, the world was distracted by a coronavirus pandemic in 2020 when the Jeffrey Epstein's about 6 months after Jeffrey Epstein's suicide happened. So a report has said that court documents relating to Jeffrey Epstein's associates, victims, and employees are set to be made public. So this would be explosive. So the documents refer to alleged perpetrators there. So obviously names, the documents can be made public because those mentioned have not expressed opposition to their release, which named Prince Andrew and Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. Both men have denied wrongdoing, and Virginia Giuffre acknowledged that she may have incorrectly identified Dershowitz. So yes, lots of news that will be buried because of these continued UFO shootdowns there. And now from extraterrestrial aliens to illegal immigrant aliens. Actually, one of the social justice parody accounts said we shouldn't call these refer to extraterrestrials as aliens. Undocumented interplanetary beings is what we should call them. In the UK, the migrant routes have just kept coming and coming, and the UK Conservative government has continued to book hotels all over the UK to house these alleged asylum seekers, who are mainly adult, able-bodied men. There was a snap protest outside of a migrant hotel in Knowsley, which is a suburb just outside of Liverpool, when a 15-year-old girl filmed an alleged attempted grooming by one of the occupants of this hotel.
How old are you?
25.
25. I'm only 15.
Okay, good.
That's not good.
I want your physical.
No, sorry.
What's up?
You don't do this in this country. It's you go to jail if you do this.
Please, I want.
No, no, you're not right. No. I'm 15. No, that's weird.
You can see how disturbed that girl is there. And yeah, she says you can't do this in this country. You go to jail. Well, there's a lot that disgustingly and abhorrently don't go to jail for grooming, and grooming gangs have been covered up at so many levels in the 21st century in the UK. So not surprisingly, there was a snap protest outside this illegal migrant, hotel housing illegal migrants. And not surprisingly, there was a heavy police presence to protect the illegals, not to protect the concerned British public.
That's it, fuck off!
Now, there was a police van that was set on fire, and so this was obviously reported in the mainstream media that these far-right fascist criminal thugs had torched a police vehicle. Now, this is a vlog from the Reverend James Costello, who was there, commenting how the police vehicle had just been mysteriously left in the middle, like it was left as a sitting duck for it to be torched.
I'm at the Sweet Hotel in Kirby, where the good people of Kirby are doing a protest against the migrants that have been placed in there, especially after the outrage of a young girl being accosted by a 25-year-old man. However, the police have decided to put a riot van in the middle of the crowd, and then abandoned it, knowing that emotions are high and that people might be inclined to damage the van. As it happens, somebody has set the van on fire. The police knew exactly what they were doing to give the people of Kirby a bad name. But this protest is a mostly peaceful protest. I like that.
And now have a look at this disgusting BBC report. So it mentions 15 people, including a 13-year-old boy, were arrested after protests turned violent in Knowsley on Friday. It's disgusting because what the Foreign Office Minister Andrew Mitchell says. He said the violence was completely unacceptable. Speaking on the BBC Sunday with Laura Kussenberg show, he said, "We have a duty to welcome these people, illegal boat people, like people coming illegally and are clearly not refugees, asylum seekers. I mean, overwhelming majority of them are coming from Albania, which is not a country at war." And he goes on to say, often they are caught in a desperate jeopardy, but equally have a duty to house them appropriately and to work with local people. Clearly, you're not working with local people. You're just sticking them into wherever. The Home Office is now trying very hard to stop the excessive use of hotels and find different ways of placing them in appropriate places in the community. And that is something the Home Office will achieve. So this is Andrew Mitchell here. Remember, a member of the so-called conservative governments. And it also quotes the Shadow Secretary of State for Community, Labour's Lisa Nandy, who claimed the government was providing no support whatsoever. The government contracts big companies to provide what they call asylum support. Instead, these companies maximize the profits that they make. They put people into some appalling accommodation without the help or support. People who've been through hell and back before they reach this country. I'm pretty sure there is homeless native Brits who would love to stay in that so-called appalling accommodation. Some are 4-star hotels. Also quotes the local Labor MP for Knowsley, Sir Jeffrey Howarth. I said the protest was triggered by an alleged incident on social media. Police confirmed they were investigating reports that a man made inappropriate advances towards a teenage girl. That's just what they called it, inappropriate advances. No victim had been initially identified, and a man in his 20s was arrested in Thursday in another part of the country on suspicion of a public order offence. He was released with no further action following advice from the Crown Prosecution Service. The investigation is ongoing. So Alan Marsden, who lives locally, said that he said the protest initially involved mostly women and children, but kids with masks and balaclavas later arrived. That was probably the Antifa Hope Not Hate counter-protesters. Merseyside police had been facilitating a peaceful protest and counter-protest outside the hotel, but a number of people who were not part of the original protest group turned up, and it was clear they were only interested in causing trouble. So there we go there. It was extremely peaceful until the Antifa mob defending the illegal migrants turned up to cause violence there. Now, obviously, the UK has been under sea invasion for many years, and people have tried to speak up against it, and the consequences of it have been silenced, prosecuted, because there is no free speech in the UK. There's all of these public order offences. There is the misuse of internet carriage services, and remember there that there is so-called free speech advocates in the UK. We're told that there is a lot of people fighting back and providing the other perspective. Well, there is one less voice in the British mainstream media providing truth and real news to the people of Britain, and that is GB News's former GB News's Mark Stein. He was all set to come back to GB News after suffering 2 heart attacks, which wasn't related to what you're thinking, because Mark Stein, he has been an advocate for those who have been injured by the thing, but his Mark Stein show is going ahead. This is Mark Stein explaining why he didn't renew his GB News contract.
But it won't be on GB News. The state of play between me and GB News is that they have sent me a contract. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that Stephen Crowder thing where you read out the terms of your contract, because I don't think that makes for great television. So I'm just going to skim a couple of clauses. These are the ones. People have noticed a change. Now, this came up. I was already set to return to GB News, and the habitual liar who runs the joint then decided that we needed a defibrillator in the studio for me to be able to go back. And then a lady who works on the show said, no problem, defibrillators are us, sending one round in 20 minutes. Then he decided something else. So the state of play at the moment is that he's sent me a contract. This is a guy called Angelos Frangopoulos, the CEO of GB News. And the contract's he's chosen to change the terms by which we do the show, which would be stressful, but I've had 2 heart attacks, so I laugh at stress. I scoff at stress. You don't stress me out. You may be a homicidal maniac intent to bringing on a 3rd fatal heart attack, but you'll have to do better than this. But I did think it was interesting in light of what's happened at GB News. There's this new clause, editorial responsibility. For the avoidance of doubt, as the Ofcom license holder, GB News has editorial responsibility for the Mark Steyn Show and all content produced for GB News by the presenter and the US producers. Therefore, the parties agree that GB News' editorial decisions shall prevail, which I wouldn't really mind. But I remember we had a little Ofcom back and forth about 10 minutes before I went on air a couple of months back. And my final words about the so-called compliance officer was that he was, quote, Ofcom's bitch. And at that point, I hung up. Well, Ofcom's bitch has managed to have his revenge now. And then it goes.
Yes, so GB News, they wanted to make Mark Steyn liable for his Ofcom fines that GB News received if there was a complaint that was upheld against his show. Now, normally how it goes, that Ofcom stands for the Office of Communications. The Ofcom in the UK, basically, you can have anytime a presenter on terrestrial television or radio says something controversial or right-wing, there's some Ofcom Karen letter writer. It happened to Katie Hopkins when she was at LBC. It's basically a method to try and shut up controversial presenters. Mark Steyn had already had 2 Ofcom complaints against him because GB News is a terrestrial free-to-air channel. And the reason why Mark Steyn refused to sign that contract is because he was mandated to do all of this Ofcom compliance training as part of his GB News contract. So he had to be controlled editorially, like GB News would still have the final say of what went to air. But if it still got Ofcom complaints, then Mark Steyn would have to cough up the Ofcom fines there. And so he said basically, no, thank you. And as you can see on the display on my shelf tonight is Mark Steyn's classic book, America Alone, which was released back in 2006. And he mentions the CEO of GB News, Angelo Frappalapakis, probably mispronounced that. He used to be the CEO of Sky News Australia. So, well, say no more there. And so GB News, Talk TV, and Katie Hopkins did a really good video on this. They give the illusion that they're on your side, that people are saying the things that you want. But of course, they don't want to fall foul of their corporate masters, and certainly not Ofcom. I mean, how many of them defended Tommy Robinson when he was imprisoned for journalism? Hardly anyone has been spoken out in defense of Alex Belfield, also imprisoned for journalism, for triggering, hurting the feelings, basically mainly of Jeremy Vine of the BBC. So yes, there is no free speech either on air or for the everyday person. Remember that James Goddard, member of Patriot Alternative, he received a letter from the police saying he is down for a meeting or else, because you said something bad about the rainbow flag many months ago. One of the commenters up here mentioned that there was a protest against queer ideology at miners. So there are a lot of brave patriots protesting back in the UK, which is great to see. But it's the alleged conservative government. They are wanting to reduce free speech even more in the UK. They are wanting to introduce Ofcom style censorship to the whole internet with their online safety bill, which is just absolutely abhorrent. Lady of Charlotte says Alex Belfield was denied an appeal last week. Of course he was. So Mark Stein's program I should advertise is at his steinonline.com. So Mark Stein, he is a mixture of Anglo. He's got a mixture of Anglo heritage. So he was born in Canada, but obviously he was went to school in the UK, so he's got a British accent, not a Canadian accent. He was taken to the Canadian Human Rights Commission for Islamophobic jokes, which he wrote in Maclean's magazine. He lived in the state of New Hampshire in the United States for many years. So yeah, he's a mixture of US, Canadian, and the UK as well. The reason why he's so popular is because, well, he's unafraid, and as you saw in the clip before, he is absolutely hilarious. His commentary. So it is definitely worth. It came out to Australia a couple of times around about 10 years ago as a guest of the Institute of Public Affairs. So he has been down under, and it would certainly love him to come out again as well, because we need his wit and his research as well. Now, he referred to Mark Stein in when he was going through his contract that he wasn't going to do a Stephen Crowder versus Daily Wire, which was basically all that was. The Stephen Crowder Daily Wire feud is basically that Stephen Crowder, he thought he was worth more than what the Daily Wire were offering. And he didn't like that if he was deleted off YouTube, then his pay would be cut. But obviously, Mark, and this is something that Mark Dice pointed out, if Stephen Crowder lost his YouTube channel on his own, and remember, he has had corporate masters before at Blaze TV, his YouTube channel is a Mug Club revenue and views would massively recede, and so of course he'd get less revenue as well. So that was you'd call it something like a lover's tiff, but probably more alarming is the coup at Project Veritas, which the board is trying to push out founder James O'Keefe. And so the coup leader is apparently one of the board members, Matt Termad. And apparently what it's got to do is Matt Termad, he is pro-DeSantis, while O'Keefe is pro-Trump. And so maybe they want Project Veritas to be pro-DeSantis when it comes to the 2024 presidential election season there. And would there be any Project Veritas without James O'Keefe? I don't think so. There was a follow-up a Project Veritas release from the secretly recorded Grindr date there with Pfizer's Jordan Tristan Walker, who said, or basically admitted that the Pfizer vaccines, they do affect fertility there. Now let's go back to Australia with Prime Minister. He's not elbow anymore. He is anal because he is going to be marching in the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. He's proclaimed he's going to be the first Prime Minister to march in the parade. Malcolm Turnbull was the first Prime Minister to attend, but Anal says he's going to be the first to march in the parade itself. And of course, in case you didn't know, that it is World Pride in Sydney this month, with everything turning rainbow, even the sharks outside the Sydney museum. So this was spotted here. A shark in the new monstrositas rainbow flag there. I mean, sharks, they do believe in equality. I mean, they just eat any human who's in the water, gay, straight, black, white, male, female. I mean, sharks have always been believed in human equality there. But obviously, because we just had the Melbourne Midsummer LGBT Pride Parade, and we're just being rainbowed out. I mean, it's going to give some of us seizures, all of this rainbow stuff everywhere. And I found myself agreeing with Darren Hinch for once, who said, he prefaced it by saying unpopular tweet. I thought it was it proved to be a very popular tweet. I have some wonderful gay friends and voted in the Senate for same-sex marriage, but is there any ever hetero news anymore? It does seem that way. And we had this op-ed in the Sydney Morning Herald from its style editor, Damien Woolnoll, who said, I'm a proud gay married man, but World Pride looks like a drag. And basically his main issue with World Pride is just that they just use drag queens now to promote everything. And obviously he didn't write this in the article, but we've now seen the promotion of drag queens to children as well. And so he says here that it says here, walking around Sydney or scrolling through social media in the lead up to World Pride is like being entrapped in a RuPaul's Drag Race marathon, with countless images of drag queens promoting Pride, flights, hotel, brunches, and bingo, with backup of a slew of oiled topless men. So it says, World Pride program has something for everyone. Most of the imagery used to promote the event is limited, making the celebration look like the type of hens parties where fecalic straws are plunged into apparel spritzers. No wonder straight allies expect me to be forming the splits in heels while listening to Sugar Babes throughout summer. And so he says, I'll be feeling proud and aware of my privilege that I can stay home with my husband, go to bed at 9:30 p.m. and not have to worry about getting glitter off the sheets in the morning. And he refers to himself at the beginning of the article. His calendar is empty, making him the gay Grinch of Darlinghurst. So he says, World Pride gives me severe fogog, fear of going out and glitter. And also this week we had a new Victorian Liberal MP come out as gay in his maiden speech, but it wasn't the cringe sob speech that we're used to. So he said, I've experienced shame, anxiety, and many other things. I've never really talked about it or made an issue because I never want to be defined by it. I hate identity politics, and I will fight against that wherever I can. He said that people are made up of many characteristics, and he did not believe gay people should be solely identified by their sexuality, and the LGBTQ activists needed to consider how they were perceived by the public. Gay people do not need to be treated any differently from anyone else. No separate doctors, radio stations, festivals, no separate flags. The only flag I'll be saluting is the Australian flag and the Victorian flag. The only flags that do not discriminate on the people they represent. He said he cared about achieving real equality and not the virtue signaling of the last 20 years. And he said the only nasty letters he received was from a LGBT activist saying, you ingrate, we campaigned for all your rights and now you're shitting all over us. Lagarda says, have you played the Australian gender ambassador's clip yet. Yes, we've got a new, it's not the Australian women's, the Australian ambassador for women and girls anymore. It's new ambassador for gender equality. So this, her name is Stephanie Copus Campbell, and she is the wife of the ADF chief, Angus Campbell. And now I'm not going to play you the raw video because you've probably seen it so many times. I am going to play you a much more hilarious version where it just basically has her in a full in full demonic background and voice.
Commitment to gender equality and the human rights of women and girls and persons of diverse gender identities. In this role, I'm committed to listening to those who are dedicated to promoting gender equality and learning about the perspectives and priorities in communities and countries in our region and globally. Promoting gender equality is the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do. It is central to Australia's diplomatic, economic development and regional security, as well as our international engagement. I look forward to working with partners in Australia, in the Pacific, in Southeast Asia, and globally to progress the Australian government's priorities to increase women's economic empowerment, women and girls' leadership, and to end sexual and gender-based violence, to improve access to health and education services, and progress the women, peace and security agenda.
And yes, for the algorithms, that is a manipulated video thanks to Clown Down Under, our local Clown World Twitter account. And so, yes, it's a matter of national and international security achieving gender equality. And of course, as Kira Lee Smith from Binary points out, that it's now women, girls, and persons of diverse gender identities. And Kira Lee Smith replied, if you can't define the term woman, you can't protect or promote women. Men are not women. It is a cruel lie to say men can be women, extremely unkind and dangerous. Or maybe we should just not have this position at all. Save the taxpayers some money, and that, because remember our previous ambassador for women and girls. Remember she spoke about how that it was important to fight climate change for gender equality as well. Now we have the second week of federal parliament back this week. Last week was dominated by the Reserve Bank of Australia raising interest rates again. So it's now our official cash rate is now 3.35%. And we also had last week the ATAGI, the technical advisory group on immunization, announced that all Australians would be able to get would be eligible for a booster if they hadn't had one in 6 months or hadn't had COVID in the next or in the previous 6 months. Now it's recommended for those over 65 years and those who are immunocompromised with complex health needs or comorbidities, but it's certainly not recommended boosters for those under 18s, and it's only for them to consider 18 to 64-year-olds with no risk factors. And a clip that went viral last week was Carl Stefanovic on the Today Show interviewing Australia's former Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Nick Coatsworth.
Adults across the country are today eligible for a 5th COVID booster shot. The recommendation is for those who have not had a booster shot in the past 6 months or a COVID infection. Let's bring in today medical expert Dr. Nick Coatsworth. Doc, good morning to you. Another jab, is it necessary?
Well, Carl, the language is really important from ATAGI here. They've said that adults are eligible for a 5th dose. Note that they haven't recommended the 5th dose, and that's really important. The recommendation is for adults over the age of 65 and those with really severe medical conditions that put people at risk of COVID. And given that only 4 out of 10 Australians have had the 4th dose, I think you can probably bet that the number getting the 5th will be less.
As you know, I'm not a glowing ambassador for more than 2 shots. I've just decided that I've had COVID a couple of times and I'm done with the vaccines. There's a big chunk of Australia that is done with it, and there's another chunk that is happy to keep having them. Is it capable of fighting new strains, this vaccine?
Well, let's understand the science, which is if you get a 5th dose, your protection against severe disease is enhanced for around about 8 to 12 weeks. And then it returns to what it was after the 4th dose or the 3rd dose. So it's very transient protection, Carl. It's not increased protection for life. And that's the problem with these boosters. And of course, eventually, we're going to have to stop with these recommendations for ongoing boosters.
I'm cognizant of also people in my life who are over the age of 60. Who are still incredibly nervous about getting COVID.
That's such a problem. That's such a problem, Carl, because they needn't be. If you're a relatively healthy, over 60-year-old, and you're living at home and you're independent and you've had your doses of vaccine, then the likelihood of you going to hospital with COVID is extraordinarily small. And I don't think we've communicated that well. And the health department's still going out and saying, oh, you all need to be worried.
Yeah, they're frightened.
And they don't need to be worried. My patients don't need to be worried because most of them don't have the severe medical conditions that warrant that.
The other thing that I'm concerned about is that if I have another dose, that I may get complications. I've seen all these reports on the internet about fit and healthy people just dropping down with heart issues, and it's still not obviously established yet whether or not the vaccine caused some of these heart issues. But that's a worry for me, more so than getting COVID.
Well, with respect to your age, Carl, I think the real worry for myocarditis and pericarditis is adolescent boys, and that's why ATAGI's come out and said no more booster doses for people under the age of 18. So they are taking into account.
Yep, so I'm on the same page as Karl Stefanovic there. 2 doses, that was the deal. And like I've had 2 doses of AstraZeneca. I had COVID in December. It was mild apart from my very runny nose. Well, my nose runs anyway, but it was just extra runny. Went through a couple of boxes of tissues. Carl's had it twice and he's been fine. And 2 doses, that was the deal. But obviously for the COVIDians, they're just going to keep getting all these extra jabs, even though they say that the vaccines don't work very well because you still need to, they'll still wear a mask everywhere. And even though they say, oh, we've still got to, wear masks and social distance, blah, 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 because the vaccines aren't very effective, they'll just keep taking the vaccine. It's so bizarre that they just keep on doing that. They certainly are addicted to the narrative, and they're the ones who've been obviously trying to hype up that there could be an avian flu pandemic next. Also, dominating the news today is that Anthony Albanese, PM Anil, he is, this is from the XYZ, they refer to Anil as Australia's first openly homosexual prime minister since he's marching in the Mardi Gras, but he's just, well, as you heard, as the term was used before, he's just a straight ally. So he is abolishing temporary protection visas, which affects 19,000 it says, quotes them, refugees here arrived in Australia before Operation Borders started in 2013. They'll be able to apply to transition to a permanent resolution of status. So the move affects people who hold temporary protection visas and safe haven enterprise visas, which Labor promised to abolish. So they... Claire O'Neill, the Home Affairs Minister, said, we're still committed to Operation Sovereign Borders. If you try to enter Australia without a valid visa, you'll be turned back or returned to your port of origin. So we shall see. I mean, so far, thankfully, the new Labor government has turned back all of the boats. But as this David Hiscock article says, so-called legal immigration will be ramped up to unprecedented levels as both sides of the fake left-right divide will support this. Apparently, Australia has a worker shortage. And that's why inflation is so bad, apparently. Now, I ran out of water and I'm losing my voice, so that's a good time to wrap up the program. So thanks for joining me on this this past week of globalist uncertainty. We've also had today a meteor land safely in northern France. It wasn't a mass extinction event. Landed gently in northern France. Maybe it just hit someone on the head. So we had a meteorite arrive, and who knows tomorrow whether there'll be another UFO that'll be shot down. Ugh. There we go, that's the right button. So thank you all for watching Tim's News Explosion for another week. Remember, Wilmsfront returns this Sunday. My first guest for Wilmsfront 2023, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time. This Sunday, the 19th, on the Wilmsfront channels, will be Senator Papa Hatsa Hara Rumbus. He's not an actual senator. He is a satirist and musician. He is the writer and performer of the hit song in Victoria of the 2020s, Dan Andrews is a fucking cunt. So I'm looking forward to chatting with him. So this is his YouTube channel there. Another one of his aliases is Taken the Piss as well. So looking forward to the first Wilmsfront. Make sure you tune in. And yes, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Good night, everybody. Stay safe, stay sane, and stay alert to all types of objects and psyops and propaganda as well. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.